It began on a winter night, darker and colder than any that had come before it. The village of Northholm lay shrouded in a thick fog, untouched by moonlight, the crisp air brittle with silence. They said that the woods lining the edge of the village were cursed and that no sane person dared venture into its depths after nightfall. But 17-year-old Clara had no choice. Her brother Sam had been missing for 3 days. The other villagers had given up the search, murmuring grimly that he was likely lost to the darker things that roamed the forest. But Clara refused to believe it. Holding a dim lantern in one hand and clutching her father's hunting knife in the other, she knew the rumors well, stories whispered over roaring fires about the elf. The elf wasn't one of Santa's cheerful helpers or a trickster from old folklore. This elf was something different, something darker. Some said he wasn't even an elf at all, though the name had stuck. He was a gaunt, pale figure with hollow eyes and a twisted, unnatural smile that seemed carved into his face. He was said to linger somewhere in the depths of the forest, watching, always watching. Parents whispered of him to scare children into behaving. Hunters spoke of hearing unearthly laughter in the woods, something between a hiss and a rasp. No one dared confirm if it was real. But as Clara delved deeper into the forest, each step feeling heavier than the last, she began to feel the weight of those stories press onto her back. The trees seemed to bow toward her as if urging her to turn back. The air grew colder still, and even the light of the lantern seemed dimmer. Like the darkness here was swallowing it whole. "Sam?" Her voice cracked as she called out, her breath curling in the frigid air. Nothing but her voice answered her. She trudged on for what felt like hours, a growing sense of dread pulsing with each heartbeat. Branches clawed at her clothes, the wind carrying faint sounds that could have been whispers. She tried to remind herself that the elf was just a story, just a figment conjured to keep children from wandering too far. But deep down, something felt horribly wrong here, in a way she couldn't describe. And then she found the footprints, 2 sets of them, partially buried in the snow, one larger, heavier, like the boots her brother wore, and the other smaller, narrower, almost skeletal. The tracks weaved uneasily through the snow, deeper and firmer than they should have been for someone so slight, as if the figure had been dragging its feet unnaturally. The 2 sets of tracks trailed deeper into the woods, almost disappearing into the shadows. Clara's pulse quickened. Gripping her lantern tighter, she followed, her breath ragged and uneven. The forest grew quieter with each step. No wind, no wildlife, just the soft crunch of her boots sinking into the snow. The trees became denser, their twisted branches veiling the stars entirely. And then up ahead she saw it, a faint light flickering between the trees. She moved cautiously, the knife trembling in her grip. As she drew closer, she saw the source of the light. A low burning fire, barely more than embers, glowing in the center of a glade. Beside it, lying in the snow, was her brother. She gasped, rushing forward. He was alive, but barely. His face was pale, his lips blue from the cold, and his breath shallow. His hands were bound in coarse rope, and a fresh bruise darkened his cheek. Clara fell to her knees, fumbling to untie him, her heart racing with relief and terror. But then she felt it, the weight of eyes on her. A slow, deliberate sound echoed through the clearing, the crunch of snow underfoot. Clara froze, her breath hitching. She didn't dare look up. The story whispered through her mind like a sinister melody from childhood. The hollow eyes, the too wide grin, the elf. "I wouldn't do that," a voice rasped. It came from behind her, low and guttural, as if the speaker's throat were coated in ice. She turned slowly, dread clutching at her chest. And there he stood, the elf. He was tall but hunched, his slender frame wrapped in tattered, dark rags that blended into the shadows. His skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched tight over angular features. But it was his face that rooted Clara in place. His eyes were deep, sunken pits, and his lips were curved into that infamous grin, impossibly wide and filled with sharp, uneven teeth. He looked like something that had crawled out from beneath the earth. "You're not taking him," Clara whispered, curling protectively over her brother's unconscious form. The elf tilted his head, watching her with an unsettling curiosity. His smile widened further, too far for anything human, as he stepped closer, his long fingers twitching at his sides. Clara tightened her grip on the knife. Her body screamed to run, to grab Sam and flee. but she couldn't move. The elf's gaze seemed to pin her in place, as if he could see straight into her soul. "You shouldn't be here," he crooned, his voice like broken glass, "but you're brave, foolish but brave." Clara swallowed hard. "If you want him, you'll have to go through me." The elf let out a raspy laugh that sent chills down her spine. "If I wanted to harm either of you, girl, you'd already be screaming." He crouched then impossibly low until his face was inches from hers. The shadows seemed to writhe around him, his eyes glinting with some unspoken menace. And yet there was something else there, too. Something unreadable. "I saved him for you," the elf hissed. Clara blinked, her breath catching. "What?" The elf's grin didn't falter. "The woods, they have hungers of their own. Your brother was foolish enough to wander too far, too deep. He was theirs to claim." His voice grew colder, darker. "But I took him back. I sated their hunger for now." Clara's mind reeled. Was he lying? Why would he save Sam, and what in God's name did he mean by sating the wood's hunger? "Why?" she demanded. "Why would you help us?" Something flickered in the elf's hollow eyes. Amusement? Anger? Pity? It was impossible to tell. "Snow will always fall. Darkness will always creep in. You'll understand one day, little one." With that, he straightened, towering over her once more. He looked down at her as though she were nothing more than a fleeting shadow. Then he turned, his long limbs moving unnaturally as he melted back into the gloom. Clara's grip on the knife loosened, her entire body shaking. She turned back to Sam, tears streaming down her cheeks. He was alive, cold and battered, but alive. With newfound strength, she lifted him onto her back and began the long trek out of the forest. Behind her, somewhere in the distance, faint, raspy laughter followed them. To this day, Clara doesn't speak of what she saw in the woods. Sam doesn't remember much, though he swears sometimes he catches a fleeting glimpse of a pale, grinning figure in his dreams. The elf remains a story told in whispers, a shadow in the woods, both a savior and a nightmare. And while Clara will always be grateful for her brother's life, she lies awake at night wondering one terrifying thing. What price had the elf paid to save him? Or worse, one day would he come to collect?